live on YouTube. I'm going to be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Let's see what questions the chat has for us today. If you guys want your own natal chart reading or progressed natal chart reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. It's going to be on my website underneath the readings tab. An email window should pop up. If it doesn't pop up, you can email me directly, and then we will go from there. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, and questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below, or any topics that you guys would like to chat about today. Hey Ray, how are you doing? What's new? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, and questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. What should we talk about today? Jupiter in the first house, that's going to give you the undertone energy of having a Sagittarius rising. Even maybe Pisces rising if you look at the previous rulership. So you can look at what Sag rising means, Pisces rising, and you might take on some of those traits. Hey everyone, what is the holiday edition today? Is it Memorial Day? Let me know. Yes, so Jupiter in the first house is going to give you the undertone of having a Sag rising. So Sag rising, it's going to be the energy, like maybe the way that you look is a little bit more like a Sag rising. Also, you know, sometimes they are a little bit more defined in their glute area, their quads area, kind of like that whole concept of like half human, half horse. You're going to be super, super mystical. You're going to be super, you know, about the philosophies in life, the maybe religions, the different belief systems. You might want to teach also, because that rising sign is kind of the direction that you're heading in. So you're probably going to be very good at absorbing and learning information with Jupiter in the first, and then probably putting it out there and teaching it as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. Ager says, what I said on my last video really resonated. You have Venus in Virgo in the 10th house. Can I elaborate, please? Yes. Okay, so I talked about Venus in Virgo. So Venus in the 10th house. Hey, oh my gosh, yay, I'm glad. Yeah, I came on a little bit earlier, so I was hoping to catch some of the people that don't usually catch the live. So I'm glad that you are able to be here with us. Yeah, it will definitely expand your luck, Ray. The Jupiter in the first house, absolutely. Because Sag rising people are lucky. But the thing is like with Jupiter, you don't want to push the luck. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you want to take advantage of it, but not too much, because it's like it'll keep blessing you. But if you're kind of like going into too much of hedonistic behavior, well, it's going to eventually expire kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. So it's going to be about the self. Also, Jupiter, ways that you can make money. So when you have it in the first house, you can make money about the self or through the self. So it can be kind of like maybe like a dance job or athletics or like construction or like somewhere where you're like walking and standing all the time, or presentations, motivational speaking, these types of things. Okay. So Venus and Virgo, last time we talked about how those are going to either be nitpicky partners or you're nitpicky in a relationship. So it's interesting because Venus is exalted in Pisces. Although personally, like in terms of relationships, like Venus and Pisces, I find is a little bit too idealistic, okay? They can go a little bit too much into like the rose-colored lens energy. So because it's exalted in Pisces, when it's in Virgo, it quote unquote falls here, okay? So it's like, here's the thing, people hear that and then they think, oh my gosh, am I doomed? Am I this? Am I that? Not necessarily. You want to look at your 7th house as well, and you want to look at the aspects that are taking place as well. There's so much more to the story. But if Venus and Virgo, like, because it bounces off of Pisces, Pisces is more like dreamy idealism. Virgo is more like idealist in like this physical plane and in this physical reality. So I have a video on here. It is going to be under the playlist of everything you need to know about the signs, because I talk about the Virgo energy, and these are just my own observations within people, so I can't confirm or deny. But the thing is like with Virgo energy, I find that they become very nitpicky and like controlling of their environment, because either they had like a critical parent when they were growing up, or they were kind of like the kid in the household that was like very good at everything. So you could have been like very good at school. You could have been very good at anything. Like maybe you were like the competent child. Maybe like, you know, when you were growing up, like, you know, out of all the kids, you made the sandwiches the best. Like if you guys were making sandwiches together for like the next day for school, whatever, something like this. Okay. So the parents are kind of like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about that kid because that kid is competent. So then throughout your life, you perpetuate this energy of constantly being competent in every realm. So like Virgo people are going to be very good in jobs. I mean, I know some people are going to be like, not all Virgo people, obviously depends on the rest of the energies, but like the general Virgo energy, because it's all about perfection, it's going to go in, and it's also ruled by Mercury, right? So it's like, it's going to go in, it's going to learn the job job really well and then be the top at the job. So now that it's in your Venus, it's going to be in your relationships, right? So it's like you might feel like you have to be the perfect partner, and then like if someone else isn't living up to this ideal, you might be disappointed in them. But like, again, that's like a reflection of you, because you probably have grown up having to be that perfect role, okay, within your household and so on and so forth, because everything comes back down to the original two caregivers. And I'm not a psychologist, okay, so that is always my disclaimer. These are just observations, like just observing people and experience and these types of things. So it's this. So when you have Venus in Virgo, like you have it in the 10th house, like that's the 10th house, which is the public house. So it's like you might date maybe someone who's in the public, or you might be interested in like building with your partner to kind of build something together, like elevate the social status together, or maybe you build and then you guys get together when it's in the 10th house. So it's a public role. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? What is new? No, I'm not doing tarot readings. I'm answering questions about your natal charts, about any questions about natal charts or metaphysical questions in general. I'm not doing predictive readings. I'm not doing any sort of like tarot card types of readings. You're curious about your progressive astrology. What would you like to know? You said, hey Madison, you said good afternoon. What is my perspective on the anaretic degree? You have Jupiter 29 degrees in Aries, A house, and then you have Mercury at 29 degrees in Cancer, 11th house. You were hoping to gain more insight. So the 29th degree, you don't quote unquote get out of that degree or like that energy until you master it. So having Jupiter in Aries, you don't get out of that Aries energy. So you might like accumulate a lot of like darker aspects of that energy, if that makes sense. So like with Aries, it could be like conflict management, conflict resolution, aggression, because it's Jupiter, it's expanding. So this could be like a huge theme in your life that you have to overcome when you have it in Aries. Cancer can be just like, you know, things like emotional neglect or like emotional manipulation. Like you kind of go into the shadow. That's kind of how it works with like the 29th degree, because it's 29. It's kind of like you've accumulated this over past lives. So if you don't believe in past lives, it's just like in this lifetime, like you can kind of look at it, you're like at the end of that energy. Do you know what I mean? So when you're at the end, it's like the most intense is really what that is. And most of the time people go into the shadow because they're unaware. That's kind of just how the energy on this earth plane works overall. When you're unaware, you go into the shadow of that particular energy. So Jupiter in Aries, especially because Jupiter is expanding that, you go into the shadow of Aries, maybe having to do everything for yourself or feeling like you have to do everything for yourself, really wanting to be the best, you know, like really being ruthless to get to the top. It could be things like this. Cancer could be like, maybe even lethargic, for example. Mercury in Cancer though, like the struggle with that energy is like you really care about like what the home thinks, what the parents think. Sometimes these people like have a hard time separating from the home and the parents when they're younger. Like maybe it was like a great environment, you know, but it's like you kind of have to move on and become an adult at some point. So it's like sometimes Mercury in Aries can have a hard time separating because it's Cancer. It can be the mother. If it's not the mother, dominant feminine role in your life, or you can kind of look at it as like the home overall. Oh yes, it is Memorial Day. Nice. Let's see. Okay, Sagittarius Sun, Leo rising, Taurus moon, and then you said, would it be auspicious if you were to go to a casino right now? I don't know. I can't really give any sort of predictive questions, answers. Renee says, hey, Pisces midheaven, why is it taking forever for your career success to happen? You have Jupiter retrograde in the 4th house and then Neptune retrograde in the 8th house. Pisces midheaven is because they want to do everything and then they get nothing done. And then also because they're kind of just dreaming about it and not acting on it. So for example, Pisces midheaven is going to be the type of person that's going to be like, I want to have a tarot card channel and I want to dance and I want to sing and I want to be in music and I want to be in film. Like that's too much. It's too scattered energetically. That's the struggle with Pisces because it's so vast. It tends to be scattered. And like also because it's in the spiritual planes, a lot of the time in the spiritual planes, you think something and then it happens, but that's not how it works down here, unfortunately. So Pisces midheaven, the best recommendation for them is to pick one thing and do that one thing. So it's like, if you just want to do music, just do music. If you just want to do beauty, like makeup, just do that. Okay, Pisces can do anything in this realm, like anything to do with like romance and like music and like the metaphysical world. It's very, very vast, the energy. So because you want to do everything, nothing gets done. So as soon as you kind of streamline that, okay? And then Jupiter being retrograde in the 4th house, where that took me was there's probably something going on with the home or like belief systems around the home or like an unhealthy attachment maybe to the home or to the mother even because it's in the 4th house. Like that could also be energetically holding you back. And be like maybe unconsciously you are picking your career based upon pleasing them. Because the thing is, what happens with Pisces midheaven people is their fourth house, okay, their IC is in Virgo. So what happens with this is like you either come from a critical home or a critical upbringing. So that could also be blurring your career area for you as well. So that's the thing with the midheaven. You want to look at the IC as well. So it's like you don't get to the midheaven until you've kind of gone through the previous houses, because the midheaven is like the top of the chart. It's this. So when you have Virgo in the fourth house, it could have been critical. And again, unconsciously, you could be kind of like trying to please the parents. And sometimes you don't realize that you're doing this. Like this can manifest in like subtle ways where it's like maybe you're working two jobs and it's like, you know, your main job is like the one that pleases the parents. And then the other one's what you actually want to do. And you're kind of having this fear moment to make that leap of faith. So it could be this. You're welcome. How are you guys? Hey, Edward. What's new? Oh, thank you so much, Concerned. Yes, there's so much information in there. Okay, I'm just going back up. Virgo rising, and you have Gemini in your midheaven. So Gemini midheaven with a Mercury in Leo in the 12th house and Pluto in the 4th house. You watched my video, my Pluto in the 4th house video, any advice? You know what's interesting? I went to a metaphysical event, and there was this person there, and this person basically did all kinds of different things. Like they did metaphysical things, and then they also like glued like tooth gems, and then they were also, I don't know, something else. It was like all these different types of jobs, and I was like, where is Gemini in your chart? I was like, I feel like you have Gemini in your 10th house. And of course, there was Gemini in the 10th house, because Gemini has to do a little bit of everything. That's the whole thing here, okay? So Pluto in the 4th house, the struggle with that energy is it gives you the undertone of having a Scorpio moon. So in this lifetime, you're basically transmuting your home life. You're transmuting your like emotional world. It's like catharsis through emotions is really what that is. So it's like you feel everything. And the thing is, it's like your feelings are actually supposed to be your intuitive muscle that are meant to guide you in this life. But sometimes these people shut off, for example, or they become emotionally unavailable because it's too much. Because it's like not only are you feeling your stuff, you're feeling other people's stuff too. And then when you have Pluto in the 4th house, it's like it's a tumultuous upbringing is really what that is. It's super, super intense. So with that being said, you're going to have to transmute that, okay, in whatever way, shape, or form you know how to, like kind of clear energies off of you, get in tune with your own feelings, with your own emotions. How do I feel about this? How do I feel about that? For these people, usually anything to do with like art, artistic things, writing, like anything that kind of gets it out of your system, you're transmuting that energy within. Hey everyone, how you guys doing? What's new? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. And then after that, CR Baker, you said you wanted to be a screenwriter. Well, there it is. Okay, that's another way that you can transmute that Pluto in the 4th house energy. Okay, and then you have Mercury in the 12th, which is also kind of going into your imagination and the creativity. Perfect. That's like a perfect combination for like creativity, writing, transmuting the intense experiences. Because here's the thing, like I find a lot of good actors or even singers, like the ones where you feel the depth, are going to be either Scorpio moons. They might have Scorpio, I've noticed, somewhere in their big 3 too, or they might be Leo risings with Scorpio in the 4th house, or they might have Pluto in the 4th house. So you'll see this because they feel the depths. Do you know what I mean? And like if you're into like acting, or even in your case screenwriting, like you had to have felt the different types of emotions to actually convey that on a screen. Do you know what I mean? You can't be like a emotionless person and then have a good story is really, really what that is. So seems like you're going in the right direction. It's a nice way to transmute the energy. Your progressed moon is in Aquarius in the 8th house. Is this what gives you Scorpio traits? You really resonate with Scorpio. I'm curious about your chart. Do you have any Pluto aspects in the original natal chart also? Like that could be maybe also a reason, but maybe you also have Pluto aspects, or maybe you have like moon conjunct Pluto, for example, or something aspecting the moon and Pluto. It could be this, but absolutely that 8th house, because it's like it's in your moon, so it's in your emotional world. So it's like everything that I said about transmuting, you're going to be transmuting to for these next 2 years. Bombshell says, you're a music artist, but you're so shy, battling crippling stage fright, but you want to be a rock star. It's so silly. It's not silly. I think that everyone has like a dream or a desire for a reason, and you'll see that a lot of the time what you're meant to be doing, you either fear that thing, or in your case, you're shy, or you get knocked down. I think you said at some point, yeah, you're a Leo rising. There it is. Can you tell me if your fourth house is also in Scorpio? Because I just went on that whole Leo rising Scorpio tangent, so I'm curious to know. You said, on a serious note, hey Alec, how are you doing? You said you're all that, and then Chiron rising, Leo ascendant, Sagittarius sun, Taurus moon, moon opposite Scorpio, Pluto, thoughts. Yes, if you, oh, it is. Okay, so it is. Yeah, absolutely. So everything that I said about like that 4th-house Scorpio fueling the emotional world, like that is basically what's going to make you a good artist, a good like feeler. Do you know what I mean? You'll see like people who are able to feel the depths, they will have that Scorpio in the 4th house somewhere, or a Scorpio moon. So there's that. And then the Leo rising is pulling you to be on that stage. You do have Chiron conjuncting the ascendant, like you mentioned. So this is something that you're going to have to overcome. You'll have to push through. And like the only way you can do it is by doing it. Do you know what I mean? The more that you do it, you get used to it. I feel like a lot of the time if people are shy or socially anxious, or just like anxious really about any phase of their life, it's because they haven't done it yet. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to kind of break through that by doing it 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and then you do it just like anything. You keep doing it and then you get used to it. It becomes kind of like second nature is really what that is. Courtney asks, you're welcome. I'll get to everyone upstairs in just a second. Oh my gosh, so funny I said upstairs, but yeah, in the earlier comments. Courtney asks, hey, is Aries rising an easier placement? I mean, here's the thing. All of the signs, if you don't have any interceptions, are going to fit into the house that they belong in. So it's easier in that sense. But here's the thing. It's something I'd have to look at your whole chart to see what's going on. Concern said, a chart has so many different energies in it. The key seems to be understanding the conflicting energies. For example, your Scorpio sun, Aries moon versus Pisces rising. Any thoughts? Absolutely. Yeah, I learned from someone. I said this in my previous live. I don't know if this is true, so I don't want to spread misinformation, but I heard from someone else that you have up to 40,000 pieces of information in your natal chart. So if that is true, that's really fascinating. It really, really is. So it is. The key to a natal chart is to learn. It is, okay, here's the thing, like with a natal chart, you'll see like your gifts and kind of like the direction that you're meant to be heading in this lifetime. And you'll see also what's holding you back. So the way that I see it is like the key is to learn what's holding you back so you can access the divine version of the natal chart. So that's why I don't believe in like fallen energy, because that's kind of like putting yourself into like a victim mindset when you're like, oh, I have this fallen energy and it's like doom and gloom. No, it's not this. It's learning it. How can you transmute the energy within? Because I think that everyone can work on themselves and change if they so choose to. And especially if you have a goal in mind, that goal or desire has to be kind of stronger than whatever is holding you back in life. That's how I see it. So you can use astrology in this way. Absolutely. You said you were raised not to be heard, so it's an adjustment. Absolutely. But here's the thing. It's like so interesting. I don't know what I was listening to or someone was saying the other day, but basically like it was really interesting because I've always had this thought, because it's like, okay, so parents raise their children. A lot of the time when parents raise children, they want the children to validate their ego, okay, is really, really what that is. That's not what the person was saying, that's what I'm saying, but it was like along the same lines, just like in their own like lingo. So it's like when parents have kids, it's like parents kind of want the kids to be an extension of them, or it could be so many different things. Like maybe it's cultural expectations and you have to be like this. And then it like puts people into a box is really what that is, because then it limits the soul. But then you look at a natal chart and you'll see that like every soul has its own blueprint is really, really what that is. So you can't put anyone into a box is really what it is. So it's like if there's anything here like that's like societal or parental or whatever it is that's holding you back, you might have to work to break through that is really, really what that is. So every soul has their own path. You said foster care. Okay, there is that Scorpio 4th house. Yeah, Scorpio 4th house is not for the faint of heart. There's always something that takes place. I'm just going back up. You sent it before you were ready. So your sun is in Aquarius in the 11th house. So you're going towards Pisces in the 12th. Oh, that's intense. You said, is that correct? You're so much more alone these years than, yeah. So when you go through the progression, yes, if you go into sun in the 12th, you will spend more time in isolation because you're kind of like organizing your subconscious. That's the whole thing there. But you don't want to spend too much time in isolation because the 12th house is actually meant to be out there. So you want to find that balance between being on your own, being in your own energy, getting into your own groove, and then actually being out there and interacting with people, because that energy is the healer's energy. So you're actually meant to be out there interacting with people, and like your frequency is healing these people. But the thing is, if you haven't resolved your own stuff, then you can't really get to that point. So like when you go into the progress version of this, you're kind of resolving that for that period of time. So it's this. Thank you so much, Concerned. Thank you for the kind words. That's awesome. What is my point of view on Chiron in Virgo in a person A chart conjuncting to a person B Virgo's south node and Sin tree? That's definitely a past life thing. And it could be like criticisms in this relationship that are being brought to the surface because it's in Virgo that you're like working through or healing through. I'm actually even psychically seeing in a past life, this person could have been your parent and they could have been like a critical parent. I don't know. I don't know if that resonates, but that's just like what I hooked into. You're welcome. You guys are all awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad that you like my channel. Yeah, there's so many videos, you guys. Like there's videos in my miscellaneous playlist. I try to share them on the community tab because I've done so many different types of videos. Like there's videos like what are your future children going to be like, or how can you make money, or like how do you present yourself on social media, or how can you activate your midheaven. And then I have the whole metaphysical playlist about like, you know, things from a metaphysical perspective, and just like, then I have the chakras playlist and I go in depth with the chakras. So there's so much. I even have an entrepreneurship playlist where I go in depth in there. So like everything that I learn, I come here and then share with you guys is really what that is. On top of the astrology, of course, that is already there. Okay, one of you guys asked, what about Gemini? What would you like to know about Gemini? 2-degree ascendant in Pisces and 29-degree midheaven in Scorpio. Power is where you are heading toward, and probably being on a screen of some sort. So doing videos maybe like this. I would have to look at the rest of your chart to see what else is going on in there. But yes, Pisces, like ascendant, Pisces ascendant, Neptune in the first house, any aspects from the first house to the Neptune, okay, anything like this, any sort of aspects, even from Sun to Neptune, okay, usually are going to do well on a screen of some sort. Whether that is actually like in movies and like acting, or whether that's just being on video. And you'll notice these people too, so Pisces rising, Neptune in the first, any sort of like Neptune ascendant aspects or Sun Neptune aspects, like you'll see that these people, like other people somehow are always taking pictures of them. Like if you're out, like people might want to like record you, or just like, let's say you're dating someone, they might be taking pictures of you all the time. Like it's kind of like that vibe, because it's kind of like, it's this dreaminess aspect to you is really, really what that is. So currently we're in a capitalistic system. So if there's something that you can capitalize on and make money off of it, why not? You know what I mean? What about Venus in Pisces and the 10th house opposite to to Chiron in Virgo in the 4th house? That's also something to do with like healing, like expectations around relationships and like idealizing relationships. Because Chiron, wherever you guys have Chiron, you're healing through that area in this lifetime is really what that is. So now it's opposing your Venus. So it's going to be in your friendships, in your relationships. It's interesting. I started saying this earlier as well in this live. Like I find it interesting that people think that, or they say that Venus is exalted in Pisces. Like I can see why it's exalted in Pisces for money reasons. Like you can make money off of your art and you can be a creative in this way. But in relationships, you see relationships through a rose-colored lens. So it's like you might idealize your partners, you might idealize love overall, you might idealize relationships, and then that could lead you to disappointment, or just like even like not being happy with the current partner in front of you because they're not living up to this idealized version, or being single for longer periods of time because you're looking for this idealized version. So it's like, that's kind of like the struggle for Venus and Pisces, also Venus in the 12th. Also, I'm going to go on my tangent now. So it's also Pisces in the 7th, Pisces in the 5th, Neptune in the 7th, Neptune in the 5th, and any Venus-Neptune aspects are going to be experiencing that as well. So now it's opposing your Chiron, which is in Virgo. So it's like Chiron in Virgo is like you're healing criticism in this lifetime, that inner critic. Like for example, you might want to put yourself out there because it's in Venus for relationships, but it's like maybe you have a fear of criticism, or maybe you attract partners who are critical of you, or maybe you're critical of them. So that's important to understand in a chart. Like the energies there, how it is expressed, it depends, because it can be in you toward people, or it can be people coming towards you, or it can be that type of person. So that's the whole thing here. Yeah, I'm glad that you like my point of views. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people who are in higher positions have their own astrologers. I'm just going to slip that in there. And they have for long periods of time. So there's that. Okay, so you said Sun is in Virgo. A lot of people in Virgo. So tonight's theme is Virgo. So Sun in Virgo in the 12th house. It's squaring your Pluto in Sagittarius. It's in the 4th house. You're currently having issues with your family. With Sag in the 4th house, you're told that you would do well in foreign countries. Yeah, Sag in the 4th house needs freedom. So it's like when you have Sag in the 4th house, you crave freedom on that emotional level. Now, The thing is with moon and with with moon and the 4th house, like a lot of the time the child incarnates wanting a specific type of either mother. If it's not the mother, dominant feminine role in your life. If it's not this person, you can look at grandma, you can look at, if the roles are reversed, or you can look at the home overall, okay? So you incarnate wanting a specific type of upbringing is really what that is. Sag moon wants freedom. They want their independence. They want freedom of the mind. They're a philosopher at heart, especially when you have it in the moon. You're going to always be asking, like, why am I here? What is my purpose here? Like, it's these deep questions. So you can either incarnate into a family that basically nurtures that within you, and then you grow up having expressed that, or more often than not, just because everything down here is backwards and like everything down here is usually like, I don't know, just like ironic for whatever reason. So like for that reason, you can kind of incarnate into a family that limits you in this area. Maybe they limit your perception on philosophies or freedom of thought, or freedom even of like travel and movement, or just like, for example, maybe it's like the type of upbringing where it's like maybe you want to move out at a young age, but it's like, oh no, the family wants you to stay until you get married, like something like this. Do you know what I mean? So you're gonna have to break through that, basically, is what that is, because it's like, it's your emotional world. This is what fulfills you. You need to have that emotional freedom, and you'll see that this perpetuates then throughout your life. It might be in your relationships. It might be in your, let's say, job, for example. In your job, maybe your job restricts you, because like the Sag moon or like the Sag 4th house needs emotional freedom. So you can't work in a job where like the manager is like, okay, you're 45 seconds too late. They're like micromanaging you. Like that's not going to work. So that's that Sag 4th house is really, really what that is. So with that being said, also you might travel, like you mentioned, you would do well in foreign countries. You might be interested in traveling overall, moving around. It could be this. It could be this. Okay. So Sun in Virgo, like there could be a critical father with Sun in Virgo, and the 12th house, he could have been absent overall. Hey, how are you guys doing? Yes, thank you, Creator Inspire. Thank you. Yes, definitely hit the like button, you guys. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Scorpio moon and Cancer sun is super intense sometimes. How can one use Scorpio powers to transform? Yeah, you're gonna have to transform basically yourself emotionally. So I have a bunch of videos under my Everything You Need to Know About the Signs playlist where I go in depth for all the energies. And then I also have a specific Scorpio 8th house playlist. And then I have a specific Pisces 12th house playlist, so you guys can understand the energies better. So when you have a Scorpio moon, okay, a few things are taking place here. Thank you guys for the likes. Make sure you guys like the video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, when you have a Scorpio moon, you grow up in either a tumultuous upbringing, or maybe there's like a codependent dynamic with the mother, or maybe the mother doesn't want to let the child like breathe, or she's possessive. If it's not the mother, it could just be the home overall, or maybe it was like a grandmother or whoever it was, okay? So basically grow up in some sort of environment, first of all, where your emotions aren't maybe necessarily validated, or maybe you're psychic, for example, or intuitive, and there's no space for this to be expressed. It could be this as well. So it's like for Scorpio moon, there's a lot of like the external environment isn't validating your internal environment when you're growing up, is basically what that is. It's almost like being in like a constant state of cognitive dissonance as a child, which then like is what activates your psychic gifts and abilities, because Scorpio moon is one of the most psychic moons. But the thing is also what happens with them is like there's always some kind of betrayal that takes place maybe around the home when you were younger. So that's also what activates your psychic gifts and abilities. There could also be a sort of trauma or just like fear around the home, where it's like you spent a lot of time out of body because you were in fear the entire time. So I have another video on here. It's under my metaphysical playlist where I talk about the connection between cognitive dissonance, trauma, spiritual awakenings, and your psychic gifts and abilities, because all that is connected. Because if you spend a lot of time out of body, you're learning to kind of see things almost like a remote viewing type of thing. So you're already psychic naturally, is what that is. Now, with that being said, a lot of your earlier life maybe was like you not being validated, let's say, for being psychic or intuitive. So maybe, you don't have the belief in, let's say, your psychic and intuitive abilities. Maybe you've internalized a lot of other people's emotions, because another thing too that a Scorpio moon or Scorpio anywhere does, and part of their role here down on earth, is to go around transmuting other people's dark things. And that's intense when you don't know you're doing that, right? So it's like having the awareness to learn yourself and learn your own emotions, transmute your own stuff, your triggers, like learn all of this about yourself first. If you have the blessing of being free and having your own time and like the privilege of that, absolutely, like being in your own energy is going to help you, because then you'll be able to be like, okay, this is me, this is what bothers me, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is my trigger, this is how I heal my trigger. Like after you figure all that out, then you can see, okay, is this somebody else's energy? Is this somebody else's emotions? And it's only then that you can kind of transmute for other people. Up until that point, you don't know whose is whose. And that can also resonate with like a Cancer moon and even a Pisces moon, absolutely. It's just for Scorpio moon, it's like darkness. You know what I mean? Because it's like the underworld energy. It's Pluto and it's Mars. So there could have even maybe been violence when you were growing up as well. Yeah, for the lives, yeah, you might have to, I don't know, because now that they've changed it, I know that it's probably hard to get out of like the vertical position. I get it. There's different types of lives. There's also like the likes for the, when you see the little hearts popping up, and then there's like the actual like for the actual video. So you said you still have psychic abilities with Gemini in the 8th house along with your moon. Is Gemini in the 8th house, is that your moon sign? You said Scorpio moon man with a Cancer moon woman. Good connection of water moon. She's a Virgo sun and you're an Aquarius. I've heard a lot of people talk about Scorpio Virgo connections. I mean, I can see how that can work because both of them are kind of like investigative. So yes, moon to moon is always nice because it's trining. Do you know what I mean? And like a relationship. So you guys are kind of on the same emotional level is really, really what that is. Scorpio moon is not going to do well. Like if you're looking at moon placements, they're not going to do well with like mutable moons. For example, like Gemini moon, absolutely not. I don't think they're going to do well with like a Gemini moon. I mean, Pisces could work, but it's like sometimes Pisces moon goes a little bit too much into the ethers. So it depends what else is going on in the rest of the natal chart. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome in the chat. One of you said, what about Sagittarius in 11? What would you like to know about Sagittarius in 11? Are you talking about 11th house? I'm just going back up. Scorpio rising and you have Scorpio moon, oh my gosh, and the 12th house, and then you have 3rd house, Jupiter, Chiron, Sun, and Mars, and Neptune. That's a lot of 3rd house energy, so that's a lot of mental energy in there. You said you feel like you're really quiet even though you want to share your thoughts. Any advice? I'm curious to know, hold on, what is in the 3rd house for you? Because Scorpio moon's in the 12th house, and then you said you have 3rd house, Jupiter, Chiron, Sun, Mars, and Neptune. What is your Mercury in as well? And I'm also curious to know, is Mercury maybe being aspected by Pluto? That makes you a little bit more introverted. Here's the thing, anytime you guys want to do something, honestly, the easiest advice is to just do that thing. It's like, I know it's like maybe easier said than done, but after you like break through that fear, the more that you do it, it becomes like second nature to you is really, really what that is. So it's like anytime you're fearing anything, and like I used to do this when I was younger, like just for fun kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? If there was something that would give me anxiety, I would go and do that thing just to overcome that thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if there's something that you guys are fearing, it's like, you just have to, because the thing is like, you'll see that within yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like after you do it, you break through it, you're like, oh my gosh, I did it. And then you like keep doing it and doing it. And then it becomes natural to you is really, really what that is. You said you would like to know my thoughts on feeling other people and maybe feeling their feelings or somehow becoming like another person by copying them unconsciously. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. That is a huge thing. So something that I've been recently thinking about, and maybe I'm going to take you guys into the crown. So try to follow. I've been thinking about people who are more in the feminine energy. So people who are maybe more watery naturally, or you have water placement, so you're more in the feminine. So like, let's say Scorpionic people or Piscean people or Cancerian people. 12th house, 4th house, like 8th house, like these types of people. So I've been thinking about how these people are actually naturally clairsentient is really what that is. So sometimes if someone comes through and like maybe that person is more in their masculine energy, you might be unconsciously picking up on their energy and acting out their energy, but it's not actually yours. It's actually that person's energy. I hope that makes sense. So this is what I mean. You really have to know yourself to know what's your energy and what's another person's energy. Because it's like, maybe that person has a wounding and then you're acting in like a type of way that's not you, but you're actually picking up on their wounding. So that's a whole merging energy, because it's like unconsciously already we do this, right? As humans already. Like for example, when I traveled, like this is so many years ago, when I traveled to Europe, there was a lot of Australians because we did like a tour thing and there was a lot of Australians with us. And I just noticed that like by being around the Australians, I was like, am I starting to like pick up on their accent? Like this was literally like maybe 2012, 2013. so long ago, but it's like I remember thinking that and I was like, am I picking up on their accent? So it's like already humans do that to a degree. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of there to like start mirroring a person, or just like subconsciously like start talking like them, or just like, you know, people pick up on slang from each other. Like that's kind of already there. But then there's like the energetic component of it, where it's like you can merge to the person, and sometimes you could take on some of their dark traits. Like let's say a person has like a scarcity wound, because it's something that I've been thinking about in like masculine feminine dynamics. And it's like, let's say like there's a person who's like more in the feminine, who's more watery, and again, like prone to merging to energy. And like maybe there's a shadow masculine person who's like more in the scarcity energy. And like maybe the feminine person doesn't have scarcity, but they don't know that about themselves. And then they merge with the masculine person, the shadow masculine energy. And like the shadow masculine energy is in scarcity. And now the feminine energy is in scarcity, but it's actually the shadow masculine's energy that's in scarcity and not the feminine energy. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. So this is why you need to have self-awareness at the end of the day. Like that's the bottom line. You need to know yourself, you need to know your emotions, you need to know your wounds, and so on and so forth, because then you'll know when you're merging to another person. And sometimes it's literally so tricky. It's so tricky to do, it's so tricky to see like that you're doing this, or that you're picking up on the other person, because you might kind of get really enmeshed. Like especially if you're around people all the time, you won't notice this at all. Like what I'm saying is probably going to go over your head, but if you're in your own energy and like a new energy comes into your circle, or like even if you take a break from that energy or like that person, and then you'll see again like, oh my gosh, I started picking up on these things, it was that person, not me. I hope that makes sense. Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? Thank you, Mary. I'm so glad that that resonates. Hey, what's new, you guys? What is new? What is a 411? Learning your own energies, emotions might be done best in front of a professional. This work can become quite intense. Scorpio stellium here. Absolutely. Honestly, whatever works best for whoever is really, really what that is. I'm just going back up. Do I have any career suggestions for Libra Sun and Mars in the 12th house? You have a Scorpio stellium in the 1st, Neptune and Lilith in the 10th, and wanting to switch careers. I actually saw you working in like nursing. I don't know if you work with like people, like a midwife or something like that. That's where it took me, kind of like death and like rebirth, but like rebirth, like bringing through souls or helping people bring through souls. I don't know if that's something that you're interested in, or like a doula or something of that sort. Like that was the first place where that took me. But Scorpio stellium can honestly be in so many different areas. You know what I mean? They can be in finance, they can be in like mortician types of things, they can be like a personal trainer, they can be anything that deals with transformation, transforming like money or a person's body, helping them transform, or just like transforming who they are. You could be interested maybe even in astrology and the occult with that energy in there. The Libra sign is going to make you chatty, so that's good. It'll give you kind of like the connections. Mars in the 12th is going to kind of pull you into the ether, so you're going to spend more time, or have to spend more time grounding down in terms of what your idea and vision is. Same thing with Neptune in the 10th, because Neptune in the 10th is going to spend more time dreaming. It's like, oh my gosh, when it's like this and when I do it like that, you know. And it's like down here, everything takes time and effort is really, really what that is. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys too. In your natal chart, your moon is almost exact opposite to your Pluto moon in the 12th house and Pisces moon. Okay, and I remember you asking, see, this is literally, I remember you asking up here about your progression, and if that's why you were picking up on the scorpionic energy, and it's actually because you have moon opposite your Pluto. Hold on a second. I'm pretty sure that was you. That's what you pick up on. I literally, yeah, that's literally what it is. It's the moon opposite the Pluto that you're picking up on the scorpionic energy in terms of especially your emotional world. Like the progression can add to it, but like the thing is with the progression, especially the progressed moon, it's only for the 2-year window. You know what I mean? So the progressed moon is kind of like the phase or like the era that you're in for those 2 years. So that's what it is. You said you have Cancer moon and you think this has a lot to do with it. Yes, nature's moon, like the merging, it's your Cancer moon. Absolutely. Oh, very interesting creator, inspired about the Simpsons down there. Renee says also your Lilith is in Pisces in the 10th house. How can you use this to your favor? Your Lilith is in Pisces. So you're going to have to, because Lilith in Pisces, because the thing is Lilith is your dark side. It's your shadow. Okay. It's your shadow self. So Lilith, you kind of had to integrate the shadows of that particular energy. So Piscean shadows can be kind of like someone who takes advantage of like their psychic gifts and abilities and like manipulates people, for example. So like when you integrate this, and sometimes people fear their shadow, for example, like there's that aspect of it as well. Like the thing is like you can't really go into the light without having integrated your shadow is really, really what that is. So it's like Pisces is like this divine energy, but there's also the shadow of Pisces as well. It can be illusions and these types of things. And like Lilith in the 10th can do anything to get to the top, for example, you know, like anything, like they can be ruthless to get to the top. So knowing this about yourself and integrating and being like, okay, like in this case where I can take advantage of my power or take advantage of the situation, how can I look at it from like a divine perspective? It's this. Happy Memorial Day. Oh, you said you're a hospital pharmacist. Okay, there it is. I was picking up on the whole hospital vibe. So interesting. You said you found yourself merging with my type of vocal patterns. You're sure that people can merge with energies with people? Absolutely. I mean, I can totally see that because it's like you're still spending time in a way with the person. Do you know what I mean? Even though I'm online. And this is like a part of like, okay, so I try to stay away from the new age terms like 3D, 4D, 5D, but sometimes like it's just the only way to explain certain things. So like if you look at the internet, like that's a physical manifestation of like the 5D consciousness, you know what I mean? Or just like higher consciousness in general. Because when we're in like the higher consciousness, we're not physically together. That's like physical 3D, you know what I mean? So I always look at the internet as just like a physical manifestation of just like the higher consciousness is really, really what that is. Because you get to be with the people without being with the people. And it's also a way of traveling too. Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm so glad that that resonated. Yes, being psychic and intuitive absolutely helps. One of you guys said that I have Gemini somewhere. Yes, I get that a lot. I don't, like, I was looking at my chart today. I don't have, like, I have, okay, my main energies are 12th house, first house, and third house. So I do have third house in there, but I don't actually have any Gemini anywhere in my natal chart, which is really interesting. I do have a lot of Uranus aspects actually in my natal chart as well, but that doesn't really have anything to do with anything. So it's this. You're welcome. I'm just going back up to see where I was. You're welcome. Bombshell, I will. I'm just gonna have to screenshot that so I can remember later to go check it out. Yes, I need to get back into like the celebrity readings. I haven't really been focusing on anyone's energy. I've literally just been, like kind of been in my own world, but I do have a second channel, you guys, that I haven't posted on since literally last year. I did 2 celebrity readings because it's like, okay, originally my channel here was me doing tarot readings, and then I moved into celebrity tarot readings, and then I moved into the astrology, and then I also did astrology for some celebs for a while, and so on and so forth. So then I just moved into just actually teaching about your own natal charts, because I figured like the best thing, like the best way for people to learn is to learn about themselves. That was kind of like my whole like idea there. But then I was like, okay, I started getting information last like November, December about certain celebrities. I think it was like Matthew Perry and Selena Quintanilla. So I was like, okay, let me start the second channel and go back to that. And then I just did those 2 videos, and I haven't focused on anyone's energy. Like I haven't focused on anyone's energy, and no one has really come through for me to like feel inspired enough to hook into their energy. Because like when you're pulling energy, you have to focus on the energy. I hope that makes sense, is really, really what that is. So pending, it's pending. I'll let you guys know if I do post on there in the future. If you're interested, it's called Barbara Talks Some More. Okay, so I have Barbara Talks and Barbara Talks Some More. Saturn in the 10th house, Aquarius sign. So you said Saturn in the 10th house, Aquarius sign. What type of result can you get? So Saturn Aquarius is like the subset of the millennials, kind of have like their mind restricted, their ideas. A lot of these people, like you finish your Saturn return and Pluto's going into Aquarius. So I think a lot of the ideas that this subset of the generation has had in terms of like humanitarian ideas or like tech or like innovation is going to start coming online in the future years to come. So there's this. Now the 10th house is success, but the second half of your life, Saturn in the 10th house. So like you're climbing. You guys can look at the 10th house as like you're climbing, okay? You're getting slowly to the top. You're making your connections. You are meeting the different types of people, having the different types of experiences, up, down, like Saturn knocks you down, and eventually you will get there. So Saturn in the 10th house, it's a wealth placement. It really is, but over an extended period of time. What is my sun sign, moon sign, and my ascendant? Let's see if you guys can guess. I know some of you guys know, but for the newbies, let's see if any of you guys can guess what my sun, moon, and rising is. If you guys know, don't tell the other people. Saturn, 3rd house, opposing Neptune. You feel like this has a message. Okay, so Saturn opposing Neptune. Yeah, that can be a little bit of a struggle because here's the thing, like this plane, like the earth plane is Saturnian. So it's like Saturn is gonna be about hard work, but the Neptune is blurring this for you. Like Neptune can really be like, oh, like I'll think it and it happens. And that's true. That's the struggle with Neptune. It's like what Neptune sees is true in the higher realms, but not down here. Down here, we're restricted by Saturn. So you have to learn the rules of the game and to play within the game. That's why like 12th house people struggle down here, Piscean people struggle down here, because it's like their way of perceiving the world isn't in alignment with what the world is actually like up until now, okay? So up until now, it's been very Saturnian down here, okay? So Saturn in the third house, your mind gets restricted, your ideas get restricted, maybe even your speech gets restricted when you're younger, maybe you struggle in school with Saturn in the third house, and the Neptune is like blurring this even more, because Neptune is like the higher mind and like the philosophies. For example, the Neptune in the ninth house, maybe when you were a kid, you were kind of going off into the ethers and you were like, well, I don't really see the point of going to school, for example, right? And it's like, because you were kind of daydreaming about philosophies and like, the thing is like Neptune, yes, it can be the higher mind and higher learning, but also, not Neptune, the ninth house, Neptune can be the higher mind and higher learning, but also it can be like channeled information, if that makes sense. So maybe this was kind of like deterring you, let's say from studying, for example, and maybe you struggle in school for that reason, just like as a random example. So that's kind of how the energy works. Everyone thinks Gemini. You said definitely Gemini because I talk fast. Okay, so that's what connected me to that. I actually looked this up today because I was looking to see what placements are going to be fast talking placements, and I don't have Gemini anywhere. That's what's fascinating to me. I do have Sagittarius in my third house, which is Gemini's opposition. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. So it's this. Also, well, what else was I gonna say? Also, I have, okay, so another thing too, I do have aspects to my Mercury, and, oh yes, that's what I was gonna say. In the Vedic system, Mercury's in my first house, so maybe it's that. In the Vedic system, Mercury's in my first house, and then like in the Vedic system, my Mercury is in Virgo. But it's like Virgo's more grounded, so hard to say. So I don't know what it is. I've also been wondering, what is it? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that that resonated. No, I have no Aries. I get that a lot too, actually, surprisingly. Okay, so my sun is in Libra, conjuncting my ascendant in Libra. My sun is in the 12th house, and then my moon is in Scorpio, and it's in the first house. So those are my sun, moon risings. Saturn return, you have it in the Saturn in, is it the second house in Aries? What should you accomplish to get good karma? Okay, so if you have it in the second house, you're learning about money. You're basically mastering money in this lifetime. So anything to do with building, learning about money, learning about investments, like hard work, dedication, like that's kind of what you're focusing on in this lifetime is really, really what that is. Thank you. Oh, do they really? Virgo Mercury's? Well, there it is. So it's the Vedic. Oh my gosh, you're a Scorpio moon too. Yay. Hey. Oh my gosh, Scorpio moon gang. Really, Virgo Mercury's do talk fast. That's so interesting. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's like the Vedic energy that is playing an influence. I'm just going back up to see where I was. Gemini sun and Scorpio ascendant at 29 degrees. Oh, that's intense in the 12th house. What can I say about that? I feel like maybe, I don't know if it was you, but someone asked me about this last time. So Scorpio ascendant at 29 degrees basically is like you're at the end of Scorpio, okay? And that's like the tail. So that's the stinger. So it's like you're like at the intense aspect of Scorpio, which is like Scorpio can be really intense when it's in the shadow. They can be really dangerous. They can be really manipulative. They can be really manipulative, you all. Scorpio can be so manipulative, and I'm not hating because I have a Scorpio stellium, okay? So Scorpio can be so manipulative to the point that you can't even say that they did anything, that they planned anything. Like they can be really, really manipulative because they're playing with energy. So they can like energetically manipulate a situation to make someone think something. They, especially if they're out for revenge and they're like in the lower versions, like they're lower versions of Scorpio, like they're in it for the long haul. Do you know what I mean? Like they will plot and plot and plot. Now this is obviously a waste of energy. So after you kind of get over that phase and you integrate that within yourself, you'll go into the divine version of Scorpio where you're not about vengeance anymore and you don't care about any of that. But when you're maybe younger or just like unaware or unhealed, yes, Scorpio, intense energy when it's in the shadow. And it can also be possessive. It could be super jealous. It could be controlling. So at 29 degrees, like it's like that intensity. Do you know what I mean? Overall, you can be intense because it's in your ascendant. Like people can feel this energy coming out of you. People either love you or don't like you. So that's that Scorpio 29 degrees. I don't do predictive readings. I don't know. I like to believe in serendipity in this lifetime. So Yes, which is kind of counterintuitive, even though I do look at astrology, but I look at astrology more so as a way to learn about yourself and see how can you improve yourself and what are your maybe struggles or challenges in this lifetime. What are your gifts to just like flow better with your own natal chart and the energies of it. But I don't really look at any transits. Like I feel into things is really what it is. Like the other day I was just saying to someone and I was like, you know, the vibes, because I'm very clairsentient. So I was like, the vibes have been really like, I don't know how to explain it, like dark almost energetically. Like I'm not trying to put fear out there, but just like kind of like shadow energy. And then I realized I was like, oh my gosh, Pluto went retrograde, and that was at the beginning of May. So it's like anytime Pluto goes retrograde, I can literally feel it because it brings this like shadowy energy, or it's like people's shadows are coming to the surface, and maybe I'm picking up on the people's shadows coming to the surface. But yes, so the rest of this year, like Pluto's going to be retrograde, and then it's going to go back into Capricorn. Like when Pluto goes back into Capricorn, like literally, like what's that saying? Like hide your kids, hide your wives. Like yeah, okay, because it's going to be intense, because especially Pluto and Capricorn, like you guys, if you feel the energy, you will feel the difference between Pluto and Aquarius, which is what we have been in. We're still in Aquarius, but it's retrograde, and then it's going to go into Pluto and Capricorn, and then officially it's going to leave Pluto and Capricorn and go back into Aquarius. So that little bit of time when it goes back into Capricorn, you'll see that it's going to be intense, because that's going to be kind of like the final, like people trying to hold on to like the old way of being is really what that is. Anything to do with like the old systems and like money and like traditions and these types of things. So yeah, it will be intense, but it is what it is. Lilith conjunct Saturn and Aquarius in the 7th house. Yes. So that's a lot of shadow work, especially with authority and authoritative figures. Maybe people like putting you down and like not allowing you to be your own person. And also there could even, because it's in the 7th house, there could be some codependency in relationship, like you losing yourself in a relationship and like the other person is maybe authoritative towards you, and like you may be taking more of like the passive energy or something of this sort, because it's like Saturn is authority. So you'll see this like play out in different areas of your life. Like it can be always with Saturn, it's the father is the original person. If it's not the father, dominant masculine role in your life, then it's your managers, your teachers, like anyone who is in that authoritative position above you, because it's in the 7th house. It could be maybe your partner as well as playing this role, or your friends even, because it's the 7th house as well. Venus is in the 8th house. That's intense. That's possessiveness in relationships, or people who are possessive over you. Sun opposing your moon with ascendant in Leo at 29 degrees. So your ascendant is in Leo at 29 degrees. Your moon is conjuncting Chiron, and your sun is conjuncting your Saturn. Okay, so you're a hard worker, which is nice. And then the ascendant being in Leo, you need to be seen and you need to be on that stage. You might have some internal conflict over the masculine feminine energy within, with the sun opposing moon. Like the parents could have been like conflicting, and then in turn your internal masculine feminine energy could be conflicting. So you might have to work on that, because it's like you kind of want to have both energies working together. For example, like feminine energy can be the idea that you have to do something, and then the masculine energy within acts on that idea. That's kind of how the energies work together. Okay, so if you're kind of having opposing energies, like you might not necessarily be going in flow, which might make things harder for you. I really, really hope that that makes sense. So it could be this. Your sun has a Sagittarius moon. Oh, that's nice. So freedom is going to be the name of the game, emotional freedom for this individual. Pisces ascendant and Aries energy intercepted in between the Pisces and the Taurus. You assume that the placement doesn't minimize the energy of the Pisces rising. Is that correct? Hold on. So you have Aries. So you have, no, it's Aries that's intercepted, right? So then you have an Aries ascendant behind the scenes as well, is really, really what that is. So it's not going to do anything to the non-intercepted energy. It's the intercepted energy that's swallowed up. So it's going to be like the Aries energy, because it's Pisces ascendant, and then you said Aries is intercepted between Pisces and Taurus. So it's Aries in the 1st house. It's kind of hiding behind the shadow. So it's like, as a Pisces ascendant, you could be dreaming. You could be like a dreamer. You might also want to be on a screen or like work in the metaphysical world. But then there's the Aries energy that's kind of like, you can look at it at an interception as like the energy sandwich. It's like swallowed up. So it's like, you might have this like leadership quality to you, or like maybe you want to start a business, but it's like suppressed, if that makes sense. So it could come through at strange times. So it's like the Aries energy that's intercepted. So it's not really going to do anything to the Pisces rising. What does it mean to have your moon in Gemini in the 8th house? You're welcome for all the information. So moon in Gemini is like chatty. You're more about like an intellectual connection with people, but it's like it's in the 8th house. So like there's like the depths of it all taking place there. Also, there could have been like secrets, maybe with the mother with the moon in the 8th house. It will give you like mediumship abilities as well, or just like super, super intense, like clairsentience as well. You have Pisces ascendant and Aries energy. Oh yes, okay, I did that one. Saturn 4 degrees and Scorpio in the 2nd house. What house do you have Saturn in? You have been told you were a healer more than once. Aquarius, Sun, Sagittarius, rising, not sure what to do with it. Okay, so here's the thing. I think all humans are healers. Like that's just my own opinion, because it's like when you share maybe something that has taken place or you went through something, you're actually helping other people, because it's like, first of all, you're helping them maybe speak or share their truth. And then also you're helping the people not be in the same situation and you're saving them the time. Do you know what I mean? So I think all humans are healers. Now it's like what type of healing you do is going to depend on your life experience. Like let's say someone went through like financial hardship, for example, and then they overcame that. Well, now that person is healing in that area. Do you know what I mean? Because they overcame that hardship, and like they can share maybe with people and be like, I was here and I overcame this, and like this is how I overcame it. Yes. But you have like traditional healers, absolutely, like in terms of like maybe massage or like a doctor or a psychic. So it depends. It depends. The only way you'll know like what realm it's going to be in is going to be contingent upon your life experience. Like that's really what it is. So you can see like where did you have hardships in your life? What did you overcome? What is like something that you're always drawn to, for example. So you're going to be healing in that particular area. I really, really hope that that makes sense. So I think that everyone is a healer. I'm just going back up. Actually, hold on one second. Oh, you have Saturn in the 2nd house as well. A lot of Saturn in the 2nd house people. Saturn in the 2nd house is interesting because it's like you either incarnate into having money or not having money. But regardless, like you're basically mastering money in this lifetime and your relationship with money, because Saturn restricts the area. It's usually the father that restricts this for you. So either the father restricts the area of, you know, how to make money, your belief systems around money, or like literally restricts your money. Like for example, I'm pretty sure, actually, I'm not going to speak on that because I'm not exactly sure if that person, it was a celebrity who I thought had Saturn in the 2nd house, although I'm pretty sure it is this person, but whatever. It was a person that I'm thinking that had the father restrict their finances. That person had Saturn in the 2nd house. So like throughout this person's life, I'm not going to say who it is because I'm not 100% sure that it was them, even though I am, but still, I would rather check to be 100% sure. But still, so the whole concept in this situation was like, even when they went into their music career, the father was still restricting the finances because it was like Saturn in the 2nd house. So this person was meant to break free. So it's like either it's actually literally happening, or it could be like unconsciously this person is still restricting your finances. It doesn't have to be the father. It can be the mother if the roles were reversed. Absolutely. Like whoever was the breadwinner in your house, and then it's going to perpetuate throughout your life, like teachers, managers, and so on and so forth. It could even be a partner sometimes as well. I mean, that's something that we would have to look at the overall natal chart, but that's the idea. It's like people in positions of authority restricting your beliefs around money. If it's more so happening energetically, it's like your beliefs around money and like also your self-worth, because how much money you make is connected to your self-worth is really, really what that is. So it's like, I was saying this on the last live as well. Sometimes you think that you're, you know, you have a belief, or maybe you think that, you know, I think so highly of myself, but then you have an action that is telling you otherwise. For example, let's say, okay, and it's so interesting. I see this these days. Oh my gosh, like when you get to this point, like you just see patterns within people all the time. So let's say, for example, you are maybe running a service, okay, and whatever, you're charging X amount of dollars for your service, and like someone comes through and says, can I get a discount, or can I get it for cheaper, or whatever it is. This is a test for you now to see how much you believe in your like worth for that particular service, like whatever the service is, okay? Let's say you fix cars, for example. Let's say you're like a mechanic and like you're offering X amount of, you know, dollars to fix the car, and someone comes through and they're like, oh, like, can you give it to me for this? Can you give it to me for that? So obviously it depends, you know, from situation to situation, but it's like, it's a test from the universe to be like, no, for you to know and be like, no, like my service is worth this much because of the fact that I think my time, my energy, whatever is worth this much. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. So in that situation, depending on like the circumstance, because if it's like a pattern and it keeps like repeating with like different people or like different clients, it's like testing your self-worth to see, are you going to stick to like whatever you have put the pricing as, Okay, so that's kind of how Saturn in the second house works. It's kind of like a random example. Maybe it's going to resonate with somebody out there, but that's the idea. Okay, you're mastering your beliefs around money, making money, learning about money is going to be great. Learning about finances, learning about investing, and usually in the second half of your life because it is a wealth placement. So, oh my gosh, no way, you're an electrician and people always try to negotiate with you. See, there it is. Okay, see, this is why you guys always have to say what is psychically coming through, even if it is random, okay? And I get it, like I get that sometimes in certain, maybe even like trades, like sometimes that's kind of like, I don't know, a thing that people do, but it's like you have to stick to how much the pricing is, because it's like sometimes if you cave, like I get it, sometimes people come and they're like, whatever, maybe they have a specific situation and you're gonna give them maybe like what's the word, the exception, right? But it's like sometimes it's literally a self-worth thing where you have to like stand your ground and be like, no, this is the price of the service, is really what that is, because for this and this reason, you know? And it's like if the person's not an electrician or whatever, like they don't get it because they don't do that job, you know? So your energies are so heavy towards psychic ability, with the exception of one example in your career that appears that you have had those psychic abilities suppressed, how to release them. Okay, so here's the thing. I have a few videos on your psychic gifts and abilities and how to get in tune with them. And I think everyone's intuitive. But the thing is like maybe not everyone is fully psychic. Like I think different people have different types of abilities, and I think you can exercise them. Like some people say that you can't, but I think that everybody can, but I don't know, maybe it's not everybody. I really don't know. But I do think that everyone still has intuition. Like that's still there, you know? So it's like you're still gonna have intuition, you're gonna have a gut feeling or like a good vibe or a bad vibe. So everyone's equipped with that because that's like a survival thing, is really what that is. So it's like if it was suppressed within you, you'd have to see like what's suppressing it. Is it fear? Oh, and that was another thing that I wanted to say to the other individual too about like the services, and like when people come through asking for cheaper services, like sometimes like if you're like a service-based business, for example, like sometimes within you, there could be like, I'm not saying this is the individual, but this is just for anyone who is maybe in this field or something of the sort. It's like, if someone comes to you and they're asking for a discount, like sometimes within you, there could be like a sense of scarcity as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, if I don't give them a discount, I'm not going to get the client. So that's also saying to the universe, like when you kind of shut it down, you're kind of saying like, no, like I believe there's enough people out there that are willing to pay this amount of price for this particular service. So anyways, that was the other thing that I wanted to say. Now back to the psychic gifts and abilities. Sometimes there could be fear that's connected to it. Usually for everything in life, the emotion behind the thing is actually fear, or like not being accepted, which is again connected to fear, which is actually connected to the fear of death, or like not being validated as like a human being, having a human being experience. It's a little bit more like complex, I guess you can say. So it's this. So if you have these psychic gifts and abilities, you kind of have to see like what was the reason, like where did they get suppressed? Like maybe when you were a kid, you went to your parent, you're like, oh my gosh, I saw this person, or I have this imaginary friend, and they were like, no, that person doesn't exist. And now you don't believe in it anymore, you know? So it's like having the trust. And then also like if you're psychic, you'll find yourself in situations where you basically end up like getting your psychic gifts validated to you. So what do I mean by this? Like for example, when I first got into Reiki, that was where my intuition started strengthening, because I would get random information come through, and like this was the energy exchange. For example, like I would get random information come through, and then I would tell the clients and they'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, like that's like on point. So it's like, it's this as well. So sometimes you just have to speak it. Do you know what I mean? And like the more that you do it, the more you start to trust it. And it's like you become a vessel at that point, and like you have to purify your vessel too. So like staying in a high vibration, exercise, eating clean, having your energy be clean, all these types of things, okay, to kind of have the information come through. But eventually, like after you've done all the purification stuff, like you don't have to be so strict, I don't think, but like you still have to know your own energy is really what that is, to know when the information is coming through. So I have more information on this under my Getting in Tune with Your Psychic Gifts and Abilities videos. I have a few of them. I have a few on there. I have really like a really old one. I have like divination tools you guys can use, because in terms of like divination tools, again, that's something to confirm your intuition is really what that is. Even when people go to like psychics, for example, like a lot of the time people are going to psychics to confirm their own intuition or their own feeling about something. And it's interesting because you're gonna have to see like what kind of psychic are you, or how do you receive information? Do you know what I mean? If you're like a feeling-based person, like you're more in the feelings, then it'll be through clairsentience, you know, like your emotions. If you're someone who thinks a lot, It'll be through clear cognizance and like these types of things. So that's really what it is. So the more you do it, you'll trust it more. Also, another thing that I always say to people is like, usually your first thought is going to be your intuition, and then anything to follow is your ego. That's the whole thing. Cause like the intuition isn't necessarily logical. Okay. And this is another reason why sometimes people like how I mentioned, sometimes people go to psychics to get their intuition confirmed. Cause usually like you're going to have to train yourself to just like really like start to believe whatever was the first thing that came through. Because after the first thing comes through, the ego is going to try to convince you otherwise, usually to protect you, or like it doesn't make sense, or whatever the reason is. Honestly, it can be so many different reasons. But yeah, if you learn to train yourself, like the first thought is intuition, and then you can kind of play around with it, you know? Like these days, if I'm walking around, like I'll just get nudges, like don't go there, go there, turn right, turn left. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you'll feel into it is really what that is. And it's like the more you listen to it, the stronger it becomes. Oh, good question. Good question at the bottom. What do I think about ayahuasca? Okay, I have a very, what's the word? Here's the thing with all plant medicines. Okay, this is what I'm going to say about it. Depends at like what your level of consciousness is, first of all. Second of all, with plant medicine and any drugs that you guys do, is going to energetically open you up, okay? So energetically opens you up, it busts you open is really, really what that is. And because you're opened, you know, a lot of different energies can come through your vessel. So I have mixed feelings, honestly. I have mixed feelings about it because it's like, not everyone has the energy, like the spiritual strength and the energetic strength to have that discernment. I've met a lot of people that have done so many different types of ceremonies, this type, that type. And like, why do you have to do so many ceremonies? I don't understand. Do you know what I mean? At that point, you're like too far into the ethers and you're like in the crown. You need to have the integration time. And like with plant medicine, what I find is a huge, maybe like, you know, maybe someone's going to be interested in, you know, pursuing this as like a job, but there needs to be like an integration, either coach or buffer time to integrate the experiences. Like, I don't think there's enough integration time for a lot of people is really what that is. Cause you go so far into your crown, it busts you open, it shoots you out of body, especially forcefully. I understand that back in the day, there was certain groups or like indigenous tribes that did it as like part of their ceremonial practices, but like for them, it was ceremonial. The people who are like in the Western world and they're like trying to capitalize on it, it's kind of like, it's the energy behind it. Do you know what I mean? So like, you'll know, like if you're really, really called to do it, yes, it's there, but like still be aware that it's like, you'll have to know like within yourself, like, is this something that you're really being called to do? Cause it's like, it's becoming very popularized. And like when something becomes super, super mainstream, there's a lot of celebrities talking about it. I don't know. That's kind of where it starts to get a little bit blurry lined for me at least. So that's all I can say about that. Like anytime you do any substance, it'll shoot you out of body is really, really what that is. When you're shot out of body, if you don't know how to pull yourself back in, at that point, you know, different energies can come through and it could take a long time to go through that integration process is really what it is. I understand that even when you look on Gaia and like even with like, you know, certain people back in the day, like they like talked about the therapies and these types of things. And it's like, I don't know, it's like, it can go two ways is really, really what that is. Like, yes, it can help you, but at the same time, darker energies can attach to you. So it's like, I feel like if people are doing these, there also needs to be a group of people who are kind of like helping them integrate is really what that is. And to take like space between, let's say like the ceremonies that you do and like not have it be like an egoic thing, like kind of like a badge, like, oh, I went to this many and I did this many and so on and so forth. I hope that that makes sense. You said it is, I'm not sure what that word is. The indigenous didn't use it as medicine, so we don't practice it as much. Ooh, really, really interesting. You've learned to listen to your gut. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's another thing too with like all these plant medicines. Like, you know, everything that the plant medicine is like kind of being marketed toward helping you open up and like helping you get to, like if you look at it as like a spiritual thing, like you can eventually get to that point on your own. And like, it's not as forceful, especially with like ayahuasca. Like it's really like the medicine, if you want to call it medicine or whatever, like, I don't know, whatever terminology you guys want to use. It's like, it forces you out of body. It's like a jolt is really, really what that is. So it's like intense. Like it really, really is intense. And it's interesting because I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people. Some people never left their bodies. I found that to be really, really interesting. Some people had really intense experiences. And it's like, I like the way that I see it is like, it's all about the aftermath, you know? It's like, okay, you have the experience, but are you able to integrate this whole experience, like, and like come back into your body and ground back down into this physical reality? Because at the end of the day, this is a physical plane is really, really what that is. You said, good to know. You're welcome. Again, it depends what calls you. Would I consider cannabis? Yes. to have an integrate. Anything that you guys do that is substance oriented is shooting you out of body. All of it. It's all shooting you out of body. Like there's a reason that a lot of these things become legalized. I hope that makes sense. Okay. You have to question it. Like, why are these things becoming legalized? You know, and it's like, it's shooting you out of body. And especially if you use the C, I'm not going to say it again, but if you use that, it's shooting you into the astral realm is really what that is. And it's like, again, when you're out of body, other energies can come through. You open yourself up energetically. And like, you might notice, like, if you pay attention to your body and you open yourself up energetically, like you might start picking up on anxiety after, for example, but it's like the anxiety that you're picking up on is just like the dark energies that are like looming around this earth plane. I actually made a video today about how like entities attach to people. And I talked about substances overall, all substances is really what that is. So it's like, it's hard to say. I understand that different people have different paths. Sometimes you're called to do certain things. And the only way you'll know is within yourself. That's all that I can say for all substances. Like you can only feel it within yourself, know what it's like before, know what it's like after. How do you feel? Are you in a higher vibration? Are you in a lower vibration? But all these things, what I will say is they open you up energetically. Like they open your aura up. And especially right now, we're kind of like at the height of like a spiritual WAR. Is really, really what that is. So it's like, I find it interesting that a lot of these things are becoming like very mainstream because it's like, at this point in time, like a lot of people are fragmented. There's a lot of unhealed energy like in the collective unconscious. And it's like you opening yourself up to anything, like opening your aura up, you open yourself up to these energies as well. And I'm not trying to put fear out there. That's just from my own experience. How can you thrive being a 12th houser? What energy is unconscious? So your 12th house is in Libra. Okay, so when you guys have a sign in the 12th house, I actually have a video on that on here as well. It's how do you unconsciously behave, and it's going to be under my miscellaneous playlist. I'm gonna have it, it's in there. So basically when you have Libra in the 12th house, unconsciously you behave like a Libra, and usually when it's unconscious, you go into the shadow, just what I've observed. So you might unconsciously be a people pleaser. You might unconsciously be, you know, codependent, or you might constantly be looking for the one or for that ideal person, okay? So that's kind of like 12th house in Libra. Now, being a 12th house person, I also have a video on that on here as well. It might also be in the miscellaneous playlist, or maybe it's in the 12th house playlist, or maybe it's in both, okay? It's called How to Stay Grounded as a 12th house person. Because as a 12th house person, you're also going to be pulled toward these things that I was just mentioning, to be out of body, to want to be out of body more, but you actually want to focus on grounding and grounding into this physical plane and into this physical reality, because the 12th house people struggle down here because they're more about the crown. They're about the spiritual planes, but down here it's very earth-like, you know what I mean? Like Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, like it's an earth plane is what that is. So you have to like kind of acclimatize to the energies. You're welcome. Significance of Taurus moon and Taurus north node in the 10th house. I'm curious about, is your moon in the 10th house as well? For you, it's all about learning the earth plane in this lifetime, mastering the material things, the wealth, the gains, climbing to higher heights, maybe even public life, being a public person. Okay, hey, Aswani, you said you've been trying to figure out the significance or shortcomings. Okay, what significance or shortcomings does conjunction of ascendant, sun, Uranus, and Neptune in the first house do? Oh, you have all of that in the first house. So first house is usually a leader, leadership, learning about yourself in this lifetime, mastering the self, all these wonderful things. So that's first house. Now, the fact that you have Neptune in here, it might blur this energy for you, especially because it's conjuncting, well, you said it, yeah, it is conjuncting. It's conjuncting your ascendant, so you might not see yourself clearly. You might like doubt yourself, for example, or like you might not literally physically see yourself clearly. It could be this, but also it gives you a dreamy vibe, okay? So that's a benefit as well. So like you could be interested in like being on film, for example, or on camera, or you could be interested in film overall, or just like, you know, like when people make those like montages with the music and like the poetry, even like these types of things. Okay, so that's that Neptunian energy in there. And you also have Uranus in here as well, so it's going to give you like a quirky undertone. Sun in the first house needs to be seen, needs to be on that stage. Okay, so it's very much a leadership lifetime for you. If you're shy or anything of that sort, I'm curious if you are, because that's just what I picked up on. But like you're kind of meant to break out of that shell and put yourself in the forefront is really what that is. You said that's crazy because you took 2 puffs yesterday and the anxiety caused you to be more aware of your psyche. Exactly. This is what I mean. So this is what I mean. It's like the only way you guys will know is when you experience it through yourself. And like, this is why I personally have stopped drinking alcohol or anything. You know what I mean? And like everything for me, like even like the reason why I don't eat meat is for vibrational energetic reasons. And like, I only speak on it because I've experienced the other side of it as well. Or like, even like I used to drink a lot of coffee and these types of things. So it's like, you'll only know when you experience it within yourself. And it's like, I don't think people really understand anxiety. Like, again, I'm not a psychologist or anything of that sort. I can only speak on it from a metaphysical perspective, but I have found that more often than not, anxiety can come from different energies. Like it can come from either you giving your power away, for example, in a situation, like when you're in like a waiting energy, that can put you into anxiety. Like let's say you want a vacation and you send your manager an email and you're waiting for a response. Like, yeah, you can get anxiety in that moment. Yes. Or like, let's say you can get anxiety if you're doing something for the first time, you're nervous or whatever, maybe you have a crush. Like, yes, anxiety can manifest in these ways, but anxiety can also manifest as like a vibrational mismatch. Do you know what I mean? So like, let's say there's like an energy in a certain place that's lower than your own energy and you've opened yourself up, you can pick up on anxiety in this way as well. So the only way you guys will know is when you learn your own energy. That's what I keep saying. Like, it's like you really have to learn your own energy because then you'll know what like the baseline is for you. And then you'll pick up on the energy within other people or situations. Like even you'll pick up on it sometimes within another person. Like let's say there's someone around you and they're operating out of like the shadow of the solar plexus, like they're in a lot of anxiety themselves, you'll pick up on it within that person as well. You're welcome. Okay, let me just go back up to C because I was up here and then I went down. Now I'm just going back up. Thank you, Mary. You guys are awesome. Aries sun, Virgo moon, 12th house, Pluto 12th house. What's the 12th house moon and Pluto? Okay, so 12th house Pluto basically is your unconscious that you're coming through to resolve in this lifetime once again. So you can kind of look at it as like accumulated from past lives, like your unconscious, like your subconscious also. And the 12th house moon can just be like issues with the mother that you're resolving in this lifetime from a past life. It could be that. It could just be women or just like people operating out of the feminine energy with the moon. Because it is in Virgo, there could even be like criticism, for example, taking place that like you're transmuting in this lifetime, but it's like 12th house. So it's like from a past life kind of thing. If you don't believe in past lives, you can just look at it as like the earlier part of this lifetime. Let's see, what were you guys saying up here? You said you have so many problems with your father, your son. 12th house does square your Gemini midheaven. Okay, that makes sense. And then you said with the already mentioned Pluto opposing midheaven, this scares you. What do? You're only 19. You depend on your parents. Well, here's the thing, you know, figure out a way to become independent. Do you know what I mean? Like, does that mean starting to work, getting your independence through money? Like, what is independence in this particular situation or this particular case? Maybe it means going to school to get, you know, a higher paying job. Like, this is really, really what that is, especially when you're younger. Like usually it's finances or financial freedom that's going to allow you to be independent is really what that is. And it's like, you'll see that when you're able to be like, let's say financially independent or just like having your own money and so on and so forth, like it'll kind of create that space, you know, and that's in every situation. Like I think everyone should learn to be financially independent, regardless of like whatever your circumstances, even if it's like the most harmonious situation, you should still have your own finances and your own money and like learning about investments and what's money and how does money work and passive income and all these types of things. Like I think everybody should learn about money ultimately. Your moon is in the 8th house and your 8th house is ruled by Gemini. Yes, so you're super sensitive and maybe even a medium with that energy in there. Moon conjunct Pluto, or sorry, Mercury conjunct Pluto in the 8th house, exact degree. Oh, that's intense, but you're super psychic and intuitive. You might be a little bit more on the quieter side with Mercury conjunct Pluto, plotting, scheming, these types of things. So you could be a medium also with that 8th house energy in there. Like you're always playing chess, not checkers. So it's like a lot of the time with like either Mercury in the 8th, Mercury in Scorpio, Mercury conjunct Pluto, these people, okay, like for them, the overthinking energy comes from a trauma response. So usually you're in overthinking because you're trying to like not, like, let's say like, you're in overthinking energy because you're trying to not manifest or like have a situation play out again, for example. You know what I mean? Like, let's say someone broke up with you or left you or whatever it is, and you're trying to like not have that happen again. So you're thinking, oh my gosh, how can I keep this person? Unconsciously, this is what's happening. So when you kind of transmute that energy within yourself, then you can go actually into the crown where you're getting information and it's like divine information that's leading you. And again, the only way you'll know this is based on your own vibrational frequency. Hey, Chelsea, how are you guys doing? Can I tell a brief thing about past life? Any story that I may know after reading the chart? Oh my gosh, I've seen so many different things. Because it's like, this is just like how I guess the psychic ability works. Like I hook into, it's hard to say because I've seen a lot of different things for a lot of different people. Like for example, sometimes I've seen for people like maybe they're meant to like break through like financial things because in a past life they were like dependent on like a partner or a spouse. It's interesting that this is coming up again. So maybe this is resonating for someone in the chat today. Like they were dependent on another person to basically have like their finances, and in this lifetime it was really important for this person to learn their own finances, learn their own money, and be independent in this way regardless of what their dynamic was. And I can't remember what the aspect was that pulled me into that. So sometimes I see the aspect taking place in a chart, and it might not necessarily mean this in astrology, it just psychically takes me into that direction is really what that is. So yeah, I've seen a lot of different things, and when it comes through I just mention it, so it either resonates or it doesn't. You said you have Lilith and Leo and you want attention, but you're shy. What advice do I have to overcome the shyness to get out of your comfort zone and get into the spotlight? Yes, I spoke about that at the beginning of this live. Actually, I know that within these like little, what is this, like the vertical lives, you can't go back until it's done. But anyway, so basically what I was saying was like, anytime you guys have any sort of like fear or like, let's say social anxiety or like you're shy, it's because you haven't done that yet necessarily, or it's like maybe you are fearing not being validated. Like I find sometimes also shy people, like what happens with them, this is just like from my own observations, like they weren't accepted necessarily by their family or by their parents. Like maybe you were unique, or like maybe you were like really outgoing, and like maybe the parents shut that down. It always starts with the two original caregivers is really what that is. But regardless, at the end of the day, to overcome something like this, it's like the more you do that thing, the more you will overcome that thing is really, really what that is. Especially with shyness, you know, it's like the more you put yourself out there, the first time might like give you so much anxiety, you might be so nervous, but it's like also it's important to keep in mind that like other people don't notice things as much as you notice them, for example. So it's important to keep this in mind. And the more you do it, the more it'll just become like natural to you. Just like anything in life is really what it is. I think the first time anybody does anything, they're like nervous to do it because you haven't done it before, and then you do it more and then you become an expert at it. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off. So thank you for your questions. If I haven't gotten to your question, I'll get to it next time. If you guys want your own reading, natal chart reading, progress natal chart reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. Thank you for your likes, shares, subscribes, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening wherever you are.